Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. And today, we don't really have updates for you, little bits and pieces that I'll kind of wait to put together for next week, next episode. So we're going to move into the meat of the matter. And we have meats today, meats. As per usual, there's an overload, my people. But we're going to start off with the GDP. And I want to start by sharing with you this video.
Absolutely. Final question, and then we get to closing comments from you. Now, the leader of the opposition and other elements of civil society have accused your government, sir, of using the Grenada Development Bank, to facilitate the financing of personal loans for certain government ministers. Is that an accusation that has come your way? Or is that something that you have heard or have had discussion on?
Well, I'll be very straight on this, right? As far as I'm aware, Minister Williams has been a customer of the Grenada Development Bank pre his involvement in public life. That's factual, that's clear. And his relationship with the bank has continued. The bank and my government are not using the bank to finance the personal loans of any ministers. And I've said this specifically in relation in the case of Minister Williams, because I know, and I think the public knows, and bank officials will know, that Minister Williams was in fact doing business with the bank long before he got into public life, and he would have continued his business arrangements with the bank, would have continued post that. And that's the only issue I am aware of in terms of the bank having an actual relationship with the bank. But I want to make the point here. The Grenada Development Bank does business with the citizens of Grenada. A politician or a public official is also a citizen of Grenada. And if that politician or citizen or public official meets the bank's criteria for financial services from the bank, that citizen, that public official, that politician, in my view, is entitled to have access to the bank services like any other citizen of Grenada. And as people would say, if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stone. So the other side is in no position to talk about those issues, and I will leave it there.
Shocking, eh? Coming from the Prime Minister, Peter Mitchell. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Andy Williams is not an ordinary citizen. He is a member of the legislative branch of government. He is a legislator, like you and the other members of the Cabinet and Parliament of Grenada. He is, and you all are, being treated differently to the rest of us. Do we get 100% concessions? Did we get $200 or do we get $2,000, extra for transportation? Do we all collect a $2,000 amount for transportation at the end of the month? Do we get an extra $5,000 as an MP? And a further $10,000 as constituency allowance? Do we get to travel for free out of here every Monday morning? And sometimes be back by Wednesday and leave by Friday again? Do we get to fly first class? Do we get to enjoy the pleasures of the most expensive resorts in the world? No. Can we pull up and stop anywhere in St. George's and say, do you know who I am? No, we can't. So this thing as an ordinary citizen, hell no, he's not an ordinary citizen. And it was you who said that certain demographics, certain mortgages should not come from the GDP. This is what you had to say in your campaign.
One obvious way of doing that is addressing our lending institutions.
like the Grenada Development Bank, which we say on an NDC will be focused on the productive sectors. GDB should be the ones giving loans to fishermen. GDB should be the ones giving loans to our farmers. GDB should be the ones giving loans to our agro processors. GDB should not be involved in giving loans to buy vehicles or frankly to even buy homes. That is for commercial and retail banking. You are a development bank. Your job is to back and support our businessmen and women who are the ones that will provide the employment to our fellow Grenadians so that they can go and get a loan from a commercial or retail bank. And so that's one of the focus that we want to make sure that we streamline the activities both of the Grenada Industrial and Development Corporation and the Grenada Development Bank into supporting our local businessmen, particularly in the productive sectors. Because if we don't produce things.
So, all of a sudden, it's no hands off the development bank anymore because you're in office now. And a member of your cabinet and members of your cabinet can use the development bank for any purpose, any and every purpose. Now, as you said, Prime Minister, Andy Williams was a customer of the bank pre-becoming a legislator, and we all know that. By now, everybody should know that because I did this several times. And I cannot believe what came from your mouth, Prime Minister. Nothing is wrong with that. He was a businessman. If the bank didn't think he qualified for the loans, they gave him loan after loan after loan. Because you know, it was the pastor that was there, Pastor Stanford Simon. He was the, you know, these people abuses their positions. He was the chairman of the board at the time. That's where our friend went to confess his sin. His sins. Well, his sin, but he had many more to confess because he confessed the flamboyant sin. There is the Grand Beach Resort sin and the other sin and the other sin and the other sin. Loads of sins. Anyway, he confessed to the pastor there, and you can tell they have a relationship. So he's been getting, I mean, loan after loan. It's 200,000 there, 300,000 there, 1 point something million there, 64,000. It's crazy. If you actually see what I saw, I have the documents, right? The 5th and the 6th for the deed of charge, right? I have them in my possession. Now you can get it too, you know, it's in the registry. It's for the public's consumption, not just mine. So you can get it too. So yes, we know that he had previous customer relations with the bank. So his duty after becoming minister and a member of the legislature was to continue paying off his loans, but not to have any further relationship with the bank. No further loan should come from that bank to Minister Andy Williams or any member of his family or any company or companies related to him or his family. Prime Minister, if the loan given to Minister Andy Williams wasn't personal, sir, then what was it? If you look on your screen now, you would see copies of 2 letters. Actually, that's the original, right? It's the original of 2 letters, both dated December 20th, 2022. Exactly 6 months after Andy Williams became Minister of MIT and a Minister of Cabinet. Now, I'll read to you. They're short, so I'll quickly read to you what these letters say. And this one here says December 20th, 2022, Mr. Andy Williams, Managing Director of A&D Distributors Limited, Woodland, St. George's. Dear Mr. Williams, we are pleased to advise that a loan of $300,000 has been approved for A&D Distributors Limited as part of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise MSME Support Fund, a program of the Government of Grenada and the Grenada Development Bank, and is subject to the availability of funds at the time of drawdown. The following principal terms and conditions apply. All fees and charges due to the bank in respect of the loan must be paid in cash. Oh, yes, we need it in cash. Or by banker's draft upon signing of the loan agreement. A drawdown would be permitted A drawdown will be permitted until all security conditions have been satisfied. Amount approved, $300,000. So we go to the second one now. Second one. And this one, December 20th, 2022, A&D Distributors Limited, loan repayment. Interest shall be calculated and payable on the monthly basis on the principal amount of the loan, withdraw and outstanding commencing the end of the month if initial disbursement takes place. The loan is to be repaid over a period of 12 years, 144 months, at the rate of $2,212 monthly, inclusive of interest, commencing 1 month after initial disbursement takes place. All payments are due on or before the final working day of each month. The deed of further charge on the fixed and the floating assets of the company stamped to cover $300,000, right? Personal guarantee of Andy Williams, support by a second deed of further charge of 10,000 square feet of land with a building thereon situated in Mount Parnassus, St. George's, Grenada. No, that is the land. Oh, it's a hot one today, guys. That is the property that was sold whilst it's supposed to be a security in the bank. But I have an update on that. You know, just pull up your chairs, the ones of you who have to get your popcorn and your Coke, do so. I hope you did so already, because we're moving swiftly today. Now, that was MSME, an MSME loan. He was given the maximum amount, $300,000. Now, the micro, small, and medium enterprise MSME loans was a COVID-19 relief fund, a special program to get existing, listen to me, to get existing small enterprises, in this case, mainly small hotels, to get back up and running. It was rolled out in July of 2021. Let me stop and say here that Minister Andy, just before the election, the same month in June, earlier June, applied to the Development Bank and a commercial bank for loans, and he was turned down by both. I think it was around 16, 17, 8, thereabout. I stand corrected, but it was around that time in June of 2023. He was turned down by the Development Bank. Let's deal with Development Bank. By the Development Bank for additional loan, because he had loans there already. that he was not servicing for additional loan, okay? MSMEs make a vital contribution to economic growth and development. They represent a seabed of entrepreneurial skills and innovation, contribute to job creation. In December of 2022, what job creation was Minister Andy contributing to, and are considered the backbone of global economy? I know of someone with a small hotel who went to the bank for funds and was refused. Well, not refused, was told the money done, the CSME money. If you give a member of the government who doesn't have a hotel, who didn't even have a small business at the time, $300,000, the highest amount, then there must not be enough for the persons who really need it. The individuals and the businesses that the Prime Minister spoke of in that clip. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, sir, if that loan was not personal, the MSME loan, what small hotel Minister Andy has or own, or other business that contributed to job creation? Now we move on to the other loan from the bank, from the GDB. In summary, on the 20th day of March 2023, 3 months after the MSME loan, in a fifth deed of charge between A&D Distributors Limited and Andy Williams as surety and the Grenada Development Bank, the agreement covers several previous loans and mortgages made by the bank to the company and Andy Williams, totaling $2,623.77, referred to as the second consolidated sum. This document, the sixth deed of further charge, also dated the 28th of March 2023, also between A&D Distributors Limited, Andy Williams, and the Grenada Development Bank, party of three, a loan amount in the sum of $1,110,314. Start adding. These amounts did not include the $300,000 MSME amount. Now, his previous dealings with the Grenada Development Bank, it was, as I mentioned before, his dear Pastor Stanford Simon, who was adding and adding and giving him more and giving him more and giving him more. In this period, the bank continued to do business with Minister Andy Williams, much against the laws of the bank. Now, before I read out the laws of the bank to you, first let me explain the GDB to you, because I myself was a bit, and I did my little investigation, I got my explanation, and I'm going to share it with you. The Grenada Development Bank do not take deposits or like the commercial banks do. There's no savings accounts or so in the development bank. Their monies come from central government directly, or a loan from the CDB, the Caribbean Development Bank, or the World Bank, and other institutions like that, financial institutions like that. So the loans from these financial institutions are guaranteed, must be guaranteed by central government, by the government of Grenada. right? The bank belongs to the government of Grenada. So, in other words, to start up the bank, a loan was given to the bank and it was guaranteed by central government. The monies the bank uses to give loans is government money, be it money given to the bank directly or money they guaranteed, right? From the CDB, the World Bank, etc. The government, the bank has to pay back the money borrowed. So when persons or individual companies, farmers, fisher folks, etc., go to the bank for a loan, it's called a subloan. And that is because a loan, it's a loan from a loan. So it's called a sub-loan. That initial loan from the CDB or the World Bank or whoever, as I said before, was guaranteed by the government. So now I'm quite sure you understand why the GDP is off limit to the legislature. It's government money. Now the law. The provisions of the first schedule shall govern the constitution, operation, and otherwise in relation thereto, Section 3, subsection 2, Grenada Development Bank Act. The schedules state, and I quote, the bank shall not make subloans to a director of the bank, to a member of the legislature of the state of Grenada, or to any company controlled by any such director or member of the legislature, or to their close relatives or any such director or member of the legislature. And that is of. So, or to their close relatives of any such director or member of the legislature. In other words, members of the legislature, director of the board, directors of the board, are not supposed to access loan from the Grenada Development Bank. Them nor their close relatives or companies related to them. Section 5, Schedule of the GDB Act. A member of the House shall also vacate his seat in the office, subject to the provisions of subjection 3 of this section. If any other circumstances arise, that is, that if he were not such a member, would cause him to be disqualified to be elected as such by virtue of subsection 1 of section 31 of this Constitution, of any such law enacted in pursuance of subsection 2, 3, or 4 of that section. And what I gather here is that Minister Andy should not even be considered to be a member of Parliament. So in other words, to run as candidate because of the relationship he had with the Development Bank. Section 33, subsection 2C of the Grenada Constitution. What the Constitution is saying is that if the circumstances outlined in the sections, in the subsections exist, the representative shall vacate his or her seat. In other words, a member of the House of Representatives cannot benefit from any government finances or contract, or should be disqualified from the House. But I don't know how much clearer this got to get, because they talk about contract here as well. And we have people getting shake and going and collect $10,000 a month. And Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, you're a lawyer. You always boast of it. You understand this sort of thing better than I do. You blatantly encouraged Andy Williams to break the law in that statement you made there. You are in agreement, I should say, with him breaking the law. Funny how there are others in the cabinet who broke the law as well. Or should I say, the board of directors, headed by Ms. Andrea St. Bernard, your advisor, who is the treasurer of the NDC party, who is ambassador to development and investment, which is a clear conflict of interest indication, because she is a CBI agent as well, and directors of several other boards. Okay, I'm going away there a bit because now I have to go back. But I had to stress again the conflict of interest and the nepotism that is taking place within the NDC. So I was saying that the board of directors of the GDB, headed by Ms. Andrea St. Bernard, has broken the law by giving Andy Williams and the other members of the cabinet who receive loans from the GDB, huge ones at that, they have broken the laws to do so. So we get back to the legislatures, whose name were not mentioned by the Prime Minister. Was that deliberate, sir? I guess those are on their own. You would clear Minister Andy Williams and said he has the right, he's a citizen of Grenada. I don't know, maybe the others are not citizens of Grenada. By the way, as I mentioned before in an update, I found out how Minister Andy was able to sell the property in Mount Parnassus that was supposed to be in the bank as security. Now, in the 6th deed of further charge, it stated that if the surety, who is Mr. Andy Williams, paid $300,000 to the GDB by July 2023. Remember, he was owing millions before July 2020, before June, 2022, right? Now they said in that 6th deed of charge that if he paid to them $300,000 by July 2023, they would release his securities, the property in Mount Parnassus and the 2 bits of land in St. David's. He's owing millions. He added to the millions he's owing. He totaled well over $3 million in the bank owing the GDB. And they're releasing, if you paid $300,000, they would release. And of course, I'm sure he fried them in their own fat. However, I'll have you know that the deeds, the 5th and 6th deed of further charge, dated the 28th March 2023, was prepared by a lawyer who is a director on the board of directors of the GDB. It can't get better than that. You want me to say it again? The 5th and 6th deed of charge, of further charge, dated the 28th of March 2023, was prepared by a lawyer who is a director on the board of directors, on the GDP board of directors as we speak, was there when they gave the money to Andy, is still there. I don't know how to call that. Corruption, conflict of interest. I mean, what is that? The GDP, like the lottery authority, needs proper investigations, and both boards need to be dissolved altogether and reinstate new persons, both boards. Folks, I'll take a quick break here. I'll come right back as we continue.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Moving right along. Accomplishments. Accomplishments indicate specifically what you have achieved during your career or otherwise. Okay, so now look at the meaning of achievement. It is a great accomplishment, something achieved with a great effort or skill. Achieve and achievement often imply the completion of something important or difficult, a lofty goal or a great treat. The operative word here is lofty, extending high in the air or imposing height. Notice they stayed away from the word achievement. However, they are in the same when they use accomplishment, because an achievement is a great accomplishment. A list appeared in the social media, plain white paper, no letterhead, no shield, just a headline which read, and I'm quoting, "Which Grenadian government accomplished all this and more within a span of 2 years?" First off, a friend drew my attention and she said, "Jenny, just look at how this thing was produced. They have not been able to accomplish their accomplishment." And I thought it was so funny, I thought I'd share it with you. What caught my attention most is when I saw Cynthia's daughter, Senator Claudette Joseph, adding to the list while it was out printed and already out there in social media. She said, "Major omission from the list. Reclaim," and I'm quoting, "reclaim ownership of over 30 acres of land on Grandin's Beach, including the Radisson and Rivera properties. Also launch the Consumer Affairs Office, Grenada, first." So it's the first time, according to Cynthia's daughter, that we launched a Consumer Affairs Office. Well, since they're adding, as they go, I have a few to add as well. The escape of 3 prisoners who kidnapped 2 American tourists, hijacked their yacht, murdered them, disposed of their bodies, never to be found, and then flee to St. Vincent, Grenada's first. 3 assassinations at gunpoint in 11 days. Another first for Grenada. Gunshots fired throughout the island randomly at night, like fireworks. Another first for Grenada. The rise in gun violence, a failed gun amnesty, the destruction of our institutions, namely gravel and concrete, the National Lottery Authority, the police force, the public service, the Grenada Development Bank, the Stadium Authority, the Spice Mass Corporation, the Marketing and National Importing Board, the Cultural Foundation, Grenada Information Service, GIS, the Public Service Commission, the Integrity Commission, the Financial Intelligence Unit, the FIU, to name all, not a few, but all. And we have an acting prime minister. They managed to accomplish that. An acting prime minister that is a crook, a thief, and a con man. Grenada's first. The first prime minister to spend $20,500 EC dollars on a house, rent for a house, with Mount Royal sitting empty. And might I add, a single prime minister, he is single. Caused the Invitational to wrap up for good in its 4th year. They've accomplished that as well. The rise in the Poor Relief Assistance Program, for they don't like to hear the poor and the vulnerable, they don't like to hear that. However, you could call it what you want. They met 7,107 persons on that list. That's from June 2022. To date, it is now 7,914, a difference of 807 in 2 years. But we're doing good. And there are no poor and vulnerable people in the country. They have accomplished a failed state. Now, I want to quickly run through. Let me see if I can get my glasses here. Or should I? Some of the accomplishments on that list. And it says, addressed neglect by the NNP administration by paying out $75.1 million in pension and gratuities. And you know, I gave them a tick there initially. And after I heard the Prime Minister on Sunday on the Bug report, I scratched it off. I scratched off the tick. And I'll come to that and I'll tell you why later. Resolve issues for teachers by reimbursing $1.2 million in docked salaries, thereby reinstating student activities like sport events and debates, which was against the law, if I might say so. That payment was against the law. Another law breaking there, that they started very early to break the law. Settled payments for TAMCC workers ending protests, which started under the NDC administration. Government is a continuum. Who pay? It's not the first time government pay off workers in a settlement. It's been done. You're not the first administration to do so. Improve, all of these are X's, X. I'll let you know when I come to a tick. Improve livelihoods by adjusting the minimum wage, resulting in higher salaries, and I give them a tick. However, the said administration is not upholding their own law. There are persons that are being paid under the government that have not yet received their increase in minimum wage. Implemented a 13% salary increase for public officers, along with fringe benefits, avoiding protests. X, secured land for a modern teaching hospital. X, we want to talk about a hospital, the general hospital that's there and what's going on up there. When you buy a piece of land, we don't have no problem. We don't even care. We don't even know if you buy the land yet. What we want to know is that our healthcare system is in better condition. Just last week, a young mother lost her life at the general hospital. She had a baby, a couple months, went home. She was asthmatic. She had other issues, went back to the hospital and died. And I'm repeating, after the health practitioner died as a result of the no medication to treat her causes. So this is what we want to hear about. Not how much, 83 acres of land that you say you purchased. We don't care about that. Constructed over 34 modern bathroom facilities for families through the WASH program. That has been done before. That is nothing to be putting under your accomplishments or achievements. Launched the JUMP program with Flow to provide internet service, devices, and training to households without internet access. That did not happen. At least it did not happen throughout. There are doors. And only a couple of weeks ago on one of my programs, I complained that I got complaints from persons who were saying they have not received this free internet and they really do need it so their kids can study and do their homework. And so in the evenings, introducing bi-monthly salary payments. There's nothing that you achieved with that. We're still a month-end people. Throughout the entire month, you can play cricket in the streets. The stores are empty. People are not shopping. The utility offices are empty. And month-end, you can't stay away. The lines are around the corner, in the banks, everywhere. We're still a month-end people. That has not helped with the cash flow as it was supposed to help. And so that is not, or that is a failed achievement. Fixed the AC and rug problems at the ministerial complex in the Botanical Garden. Now, could you imagine NDC trying to grab at straws for achievements? Fix the AC. If the AC breaks down, you have to fix it. Any government in office, if it's 10 times the AC breaks down, you have to fix it or get new ones. If the rug needs changing, change the rug and shut up. Increase nurses' salary by 500 monthly and doctors by 1,000 monthly. X, offer a 100% concession to individuals in the creative industry. X, we have no proof of that. Establish the Office of the Creative Affairs. I gave them a tick. Only added to that, we were told by the Minister of Culture that they don't have an office yet. So they established an office, but they don't have an office. But the idea is excellent. The idea is excellent for the creatives because not everybody is academically inclined, and we have a long list of creatives on island. And I'm sure more to pop up. created the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and X. Initiated the National Spice Planting Program, Replanting Program. That's a 4-H club initiative. I mean, come on. Why are we taking that and have it? Introduce universal education, ensuring every child has access to secondary school. We are not ready for that. We cannot boast of that. The children are going into school and are falling behind. We don't have our schools retrofitted for technical and vocational training as yet. Introduce Grenadian history at primary school and X. Introduce foreign language X. Introduce TVET in primary schools X. Introduce free hot meal program in primary school X. The program was there. Y'all mash up the program and saying don't pay the $1 or the $2 or the 50 cents that it normally paid. And so now children are hungry in the schools. X. Launch the free tuition program. Also, I dealt with that in a couple of my episodes. You have shoes to put on to go to school. You don't have socks. You don't have underwear. You don't have pants. You don't have vests. You don't have shirt. All you have is a pair of shoes. That is what when you do the free tuition, and the rest of it, the parents and guardians have to fight up. And in most cases, they can't afford to fight up. That is what that free tuition is about. So that's another X. Resolve a legal dispute between Kawana Bay developer to regain land and property. The regaining of the land and property, I'll give you a tick. Tell us how much money you eventually spent and how you know you're going to lose the case. Who's a lawyer that tell you you're going to lose the case? So pay him off. And now you have to pay off the 214, I think it is, other investors, which would accumulate millions. So you didn't get a deal in effect, right? Expand Camahon Park by 5 acres. I didn't know that. I'm seeing this here. I thought we had Camahon Park and we had a Heroes Park next to it. It looked like we canceled the Heroes Park idea. So I'm seeing here we extend, I don't know. That's an X. Continue work on the Molyneux land slippage project. X. Started the Fort George project with worth millions of dollars. I'll give you a tick for that because it's been sitting there. And I found out not hearing anything much about it, but I'll give you a tick for that. Refurbishing the old C&W building for the police headquarters, introducing corruption. X. Regarding upgrading, I'm sorry, I have the glasses, you know. Upgrading the St. Paul's police station. X. Government is a continuum. You campaigned on fixing the upgrading the police stations. X. The upgraded medical stations. X. Renovation of Hillsborough Medical Station. X. Modernized the Princess Alice Hospital in Caribou. That started before with Minister Kendra Matthew Stewart. Princess Royal in Caribou. That's another X. Initiate efforts for night landing. That started before. X. Upgraded the Windward Fish Market and Jetty. I'll give you a half. Recruiting and trained over 100 new police officers. X. This is a big X. No, that's been happening. Why do you think we have policemen in the force? They just walked in. You recruit 100 people in 2 years, and you want employed 26 new nurses and $9. X, continue enhancement at the Morris Bishop International Airport. X, regularize public officers for job security. X, increase Imani trainee stipends to $1,200. Well, I never see. But of course, if you increase the minimum wage, the ones in the Imani that was getting the minimum wage of $700 or $800, of course they're gonna you have to increase it to $1,200. How is that an accomplishment? The accomplishment was the minimum wage. This here falls in line. X, praise poor relief assistance. Raised poor relief assistance from 300 to 5. Listen, this is something we went over and over and over, and I mean, I'm not going to. X. Successfully organizing a golden jubilee. Successfully? X. Tell us about the monies. Tell us about the $22.5 million. And then we might give you a half, if you can tell us where the money's gone, right? Boosted visitors arrival. How you did that, huh? How you did that? We came out of COVID 2021, basically all in 2022. Some of us still couldn't even travel to America because of the COVID, the ban they had on persons who are not vaccinated. Now that everything is clear up and so on, and people start traveling, and yes, Grenada is one of the safest destinations to travel. That has nothing to do with you. How it is you want, you have that on your accomplishment. I don't understand. I like this one, you know. Enhance nightmare security. Nightmare is for real. Enhance nighttime security with eliminated bus stops. I ain't saying nothing for that. X, right? And we have people line up on the terminus anytime after 4 or 5 o'clock till all 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the night. They can't get transportation to go home, but we enhance nighttime security by eliminating bus stops. Where are the lots on the bus stops? Launch the CES program, provided $15.1 billion to businesses. We need to know where the $15.1 billion went. We need to see success stories coming from the CES program. Just giving out monies to surrogates is not a success. It's not an accomplishment that you have to put on paper. And so it's an X. Install a new track at the Karani James. X. Initiated repairs in the National Cricket Stadium. X. Deal with the Chinese down there. Renovated community centers across the country. It happens when it needs to be. X. Oh my God. Reinstituted transparency, good governance, and accountability. X. Introduce gun amnesty to combat violence. X. Gun violence. Offered a 1-year tax amnesty to all taxpayers. It happened before. X. Implemented the license upgrading program, that is to collect extra fees, enhance airlifts for easier travel, explain that. X, granted more scholarship to youth. X, extend school age for learning opportunities. That didn't even get called yet. The dust didn't even settle up. X, introduce Crownlands regularization program. X, remove derelict vehicles from the road. X, how many did you remove? 10, 5, 20? There are so many still there. That and the program has stopped. Listen, X, X. I'm moving down. Resolve the Lacolum sewer issue. You can take that. Oh God. Started construction on the Grenada Christian Academy. Government is a continuum. Execute repairs and construction on various roads. X. I thought that NDC was the concrete government, and all they did was build roads. Huh? Aye. Completed the Six Senses Hotel. That one is a load of BS. Come on. Y'all take that too? Supported the Rivera Hotel development. Project 500. Project 500, soon to be piloted in Dunfermline. What happened to the Stony Gut in St. John? Issued a demand letter to Sheldon Scott for reimbursement related to self-forget. That made the list, folks. X. Now, we'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. I take a little face tap. Let me drink a little tea to wet the throat. The throat feels pretty dry the day today. Now, there are some specific items on there I would expound on. Now, most of the stuff on there, as you're well aware, are mandatory of government to execute. You're in government, you pay taxes, that's what you have to do. That's not a big accomplishment. That's what administrations after administrations do. Some don't do as much as others, but it's there to be done. And if you come in and it's not done, you do it. Okay? That's what they mean when they say government is a continuum. The first one, addressed neglect by the NNP administration by paying out 75.1 million in pension and gratuities. We all know the NDC campaign on pension and regularization. They came together, glued at the hip, like Gloria and Delma, you know? Where's that these days? I see number 10 in visiting schools and the inner constituencies without Sister Glo. I wonder if Sister Glo does still call 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, here is some of what was said during the campaign on pension.
Our intention is to ensure that the workers of Grenada, from the time they commence their working life, are given the opportunity to have a path through which they can grow, through which they can own, through which they can keep and reap the benefits of their hard work. And in keeping that benefit of your hard work, we perhaps want to start with the most topical and current issue affecting particularly public workers. But I want to make this point, that the issue of pension, the payment of pensions, and the payment of gratuity upon retirement is not an issue that is unique to public workers only. It is an issue that affects and will affect every Grenadian worker. And addressing the pension payment for public workers is only the beginning of the process of transforming the working lives of Grenadians to ensure that upon their retirement, they in fact have a pension or a gratuity or can benefit from a retirement savings plan. And so the National Democratic Congress will, should, and when it forms the government, pay the public workers their pension.
Okay. Lest we forget, friends and family, that the Prime Minister, then political leader of the NDC, promised to take a loan, if he had to pay pension, if there wasn't money in the treasury. He promised to take a loan to do it. I remember the Prime Minister warning that that payment was not a one-off payment when you pay the first set of pensioners, and that it was continuous, so that you'd have to get more and more monies to pay each time. He warned that paying off of that lump sum can derail the economy, and paying the continuous paying of the pension can derail the economy. Here's what Dr. Mitchell had to say then.
Regarding the issue of payment of state pensions, unless we manage the process well and set out a viable roadmap under which the state could meet its obligations, it can completely derail the economy, sink thousands into dire poverty, and set us back many years and cripple the future development plans. That must not happen under our watch. We can only have the best outcome, however, my friends, by having the most honest conversations. And that must include all stakeholders being engaged. Because this is not about just the public workers. It's about all the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. The government obviously must lead on this matter. They have no choice. But it puts a reasonable final solution in doubt unless we purposely engage all stakeholders.
Did he say in that clip that you heard there, did he say it can't happen or it could never happen? Did you hear him say that it can't happen? We know the pillars of the NDC campaign was pension and regularization. It captured the hearts of the workers during the campaign. The workers, the Imanis. Here is the then political leader and now Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell.
The Congress commits to regularizing the status of contract workers who are working for the government and Imani workers who are working for the government within 12 months of assuming office.
Okay. Now, we heard him within 12 months. Now, after 12 months, and persons start saying, well, what's going on? We don't know. The Prime Minister came and he told us, they never said that. Listen to him here.
We never said we would regularize the public service in 12 months. We said we would regularize it. And we have begun to do so.
An early case of dementia. Or a little senior woman, but he's a youth, isn't he? He's young. He went on to describe contract work as criminal.
But when you put people on contract work, and when there is no need to do so, then you are putting them in a vulnerable position, and you are doing so deliberately. And so the question you have to ask is, why are you doing so?
Yep.
And in my view, you are doing so because you want to have the ability to fire them at will. So you want to create job insecurity because you want to be able to manipulate them for your own ulterior reasons. Right. So let's make this clear. For those contract workers who are able to qualify for that GDB loan, I'm happy for them. But a significant number of them will not be able to qualify. And the question is, when they don't qualify, what happens to them? They remain on contract work. So what has to be addressed is the fact that the government has to end this contract work, absorb the employees because they are doing jobs that are normal, customary, and required. Let's take, for example, a cook in a school. If you have a school feeding program, that job is required indefinitely. There is no reason to put a cook on a contract work. And remember, when you put her on contract work, she has no pension. She has no chance of getting health insurance. She has no chance of buying life insurance because the incomes are very low. Right. And if you go to buy these things, they will say to you, well, we have no guarantee that you will have a job 6 months from now or 12 months from now. And so no one wants to deal with you from a financial perspective when you're in that position. And I'm saying the job of the citizens, of the government, is to fight for its citizens, to protect its citizens, to encourage its citizens to be independent, not dependent, not vulnerable. So that is the challenge we face. And I'm saying it is solvable by the stroke of a pen. And let me make this further point. It is actually illegal. The Employment Act clearly says that you cannot put someone on a fixed term contract, meaning these short-term contracts, when the position they are filling is an indefinite one. So the government itself is breaking the law. The government itself is being lawless. So I'm saying in those circumstances, they should in fact end the contract work, regularize the status of the employees, and any other incentives that should be offered to them to make up for the period that they've been on contract jobs, in fact, should be given to them.
All you heard that? The government is breaking the law. The very first clip I played in this segment, the Prime Minister, in his utterances, has broken the law. And there are many more, many more. Then on winning the elections, the Prime Minister and his members certainly realized that the two can't happen. They can't be separated, I should say. That one cannot happen without affecting the other. And so we have to do some kind of reform. And let's first hear the Attorney General as she seeks to explain this in the Senate.
That said, we also raised the issue of contract work and how unfair contract work is, whether it's taking place in the public sector or the private sector, and the need to regularize as much as we can contract workers. But let's be straight. We're going to be straight with the nation. Contract work and pension reform must go together. Because we commit to pay the retroactive pension, and we are doing so. We understand the import of the ruling of the court. But so as not to do severe damage, perhaps even irreparable damage to our economy in the long run, we must work out a pension plan going forward that's sustainable. Because as it stands now, when people retire, they are entitled to NIS, that's public servants I mean, they are entitled to NIS plus government pension, and government pension is a non-contributory pension, which means the government alone pays everything into the pension fund, plus under the NIS law, the government pays 6% into the NIS, into the National Insurance Fund. So going forward, that will be a really hefty sum that the IMF and everybody else have already warned is not sustainable going forward as it is. Plus, if we regularize contract workers across the board without at the same time treating with pension reform, what do? We bloat the public service. We expand the public service, and in so doing, the amount of people who would be eligible for pension. So we call on our friends in the labor movement to sit with us and work out an acceptable mode going forward, where everyone will be happy, where we will not leave an unbearable financial burden for those who come after us, and where those who retire going forward will not have to retire into poverty. So I look forward to Mr. President, my learned friend, and his colleagues in the union.
Irreparable damage or irreparable damage, she said, right? Cause irreparable damage and bloat the public service. All these things you didn't know before you went on the campaign trail and promised that you will regularize all contract workers in 12 months. And in one instance, you said by the stroke of a pen. Whose fault it is that you didn't know, you didn't study, you didn't do the work before you walk the walk? You didn't, right? It didn't stop there. The Prime Minister felt the same, but acting sheepish, and come as if it's we that say that and not him. Let's hear what he had to say.
The regularization is focused on the several hundreds, if not thousands, of other persons who do not have those things. And the point that I think P.S. Marshall was making is that in order to treat with that, we simply cannot take all of them and make them established public servants for the simple reason that it will bankrupt the government. It will not be sustainable. So the discussion, the partnership, the compromise has to essentially be how we improve the terms and conditions of these persons' employment as close as possible to that of established workers in a manner that is sustainable. And that involves a number of things. How we agree on a pension formula for them, for example, how we agree on the vacation, etc., etc., etc. So that is what the process.
You never told us that on the campaign. It was you paying pension and you regularizing everybody that on contract. Now you come as though it's we that say it and tell us it can't happen. We didn't say it. However, even after this, they continue to say that Dr. Mitchell and say that it can be done. It can't, right? With a T. It can't be done. And they did it. You ain't do it, but you say LNPC, Dr. Mitchell say it can't be done, and you did it. And you're making excuses why it still can't be done. Let's hear Dennis Cornwall, Minister of Finance, in the 2024 budget.
Mr. Speaker, despite the naysayers, we have continued to steadfastly deliver on our bold promises to transform our beautiful nation. They said we could not implement twice monthly payments on salaries and pension. That we did.
Table knock, that we did, but we didn't do it. Here is Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell on June 10th, 2024.
They said if we paid the pension, the economy will mash up. It will be doom and gloom. It will be dark days. The pension was paid by November of 2022.
And what happened now? You could continue. You want to do pension reform. You can't regularize. What happened now? If Uncle Tilly want to talk about exaggeration, there it was. There it was. They say we couldn't pay it. We did it, but we didn't do it yet because we have issues. Are we going to cripple the economy and Also, don't worry, we come in. I'll give you a bonus with Uncle Tilly on this here weekend, they couldn't do it.
Of course, there's a tendency to exaggerate. You see, what I discovered is that the NNP administration, when the NDC came into office 2 years ago, they made certain predictions about failure and collapse, and the young and they cannot perform. And it turned out that they're performing far better than the NNP did. In the last 2 years, with the pension, they said they're going to be filled. The minimum wage, and whatever. There are lots of things that they have done. The NNP authority said that cannot be done, and it's done. So they're looking for things now to pin this administration.
It's sad. I wouldn't even. Let's move on. Let's move on. It hurt my heart to see that. And then on Sunday, the 23rd June, 13 days later, this is what the Prime Minister had to say when asked about the pension.
The pension reform process. Now, you announced in the recent town hall government's intention to move forward with a transferable pension scheme for contract workers in the public service. Now, why can't these workers be absorbed into the current pension scheme that will be under review as part of the regularization process with whatever new pension scheme that would be in place for the more established public workers?
It's just not financially sustainable. You are talking about the existing pension system that we have in Grenada is a non-funded pension system. So let me break that down. The pension legislation on our books date back to the 1950s, pre-independence, where the number of public servants was small, probably less than a couple hundred. And at that time, the state perhaps was in a position to, assuming the public servants and the numbers of public servants that remained a couple hundred. If it was a couple hundred today, we would not have any challenges. The reality is the pension that a public servant gets now is funded directly out of taxpayers' revenue every year. So it's called a non-funded pension. In other words, the pension isn't actually guaranteed because there is no actual fund that is set aside and being invested to pay that pension.
He said it's not financially sustainable. Coming from the mouth, and this is a few days ago, it's not financially sustainable, but we did it. They say we couldn't do it, but we did it. But it's not financially sustainable, right? If it was 200 workers, we could do it. So you didn't count how much workers was there before you open your mouth and make your pronouncement. You just ram your foot in it, right down your throat, and come and tell us no, it's not financially sustainable, and got back way in the 50s. So in my mind, the greatest achievement just went down the drain. The pension just went down the drain. Secondly, they say constructed over 34 bathroom facilities for families through the WASH program. Now we know that the program they call WASH has been around, a program of the former administration. But I'll let number 10 explain that to you also well, because it's her brainchild.
Mr. Speaker, that this new bathroom and toilet program, a very first program for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Martinique. We always hear about Sir Eric Gary and the development he has done, but we have never heard of bathroom and toilet in his time. A caring new national party government, Mr. Speaker, during the COVID pandemic, when we collected less revenue, introduced a bathroom and toilet to lift our people out of poverty. So our people not stupid, Mr. Speaker. We can bring anyone and say, we bring in youth. Well, we have youth here too. Are you looking? When I got involved in politics, I was 32. That's true youth, not 44. 44 is no youth because I'm within that age range and I'm no longer a youth. But we have our sister Materian Stott who's missing here. She's considered a youth. That's why she's missing here. And I want to congratulate her. on her newborn baby. Mr. Speaker, she's a youth. That's why she can be bought. When you're over 40, you're not looking to make children anymore. There's no youth there, Mr. Speaker. The youth is around here. Kate Skeeter Lewis is a youth. And many of our members here, Mr. Speaker, we started as youth. Emmeline Pierre, and we have other members who can call. The very opposition leader that is talking about youth. He entered this parliament as a youth under the new National Party government, Mr. Speaker, and this needs to be known. So we don't get tired up, Mr. Speaker, or people are not getting tired of this youthful thing, because they know that the only government that really cares about them is the new National Party government. We need to look back as we talk about housing during their time. How many people can say that we receive housing assistance under NDC government? NDC government see housing and improving the life of people, ordinary people, as greedy and needy and greedy. That's what they call them. But the only true government, Mr. Speaker, the only true party that truly cares about our people is the new National Party. And our people, they do not forget. So let's not take them for fool and say there's a wave. There's no wave. We're getting tied up in a few areas. Our government will continue to provide assistance. We'll continue to look and develop our people in the house.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Are you looking? Are you looking? Moving along. I don't have nothing to add there. I'm sorry, nothing to add there. Perfectly said. Continue work on the Modern-Air land slippage project. First of all, government is a continuum. However, we should have had a new Modern-Air road by now. That is, if our local engineers did not juke down the mountain. And I could say it no other how, but they went and they juked down the mountain. Listen to the Minister of MIT, Andy Williams, had to say on that project.
The first design we had from for the Modern-Air project, it did not take into consideration the top of the hill, that's by the road. So what happened is that some months ago, one of the water lines, the major water line burst, and the water went, it sprayed on top, and it has some of the debris coming down in full. So, but besides from that, you have debris coming down from time to time. Now, the second design that we are doing, that have just been completed, it took into consideration the debris coming down from on top. So basically, we had to redesign the whole project, and because of this, the project had to be halted for the time.
The minister further explained that the new design is now complete and work will soon commence on the project.
So the redesign is finished, and part of the redesign had to do with adding more piles to the road. So the piles are on the port now. We cleared some already, and we are in the process of clearing the others. When the pile is when we have completed clearing the piles, then you can look at work being started on the road. But basically, we had to do that because, if we had went with the first design, it would not have been proper. And we wanted to do a proper work on the Modern-Air road so that we do not have to go back there again, to do anything. So right now we are confident that the engineers who redesigned the project did a proper job. And in my opinion, it's a better design than the first one.
Williams said the project will be completed in January 2024.
Engineers from all over Grenada to look at the plan, to really give their view on it, and they were satisfied with the new design that we have. So we are aiming to complete the project in Modern-Air in January coming. It costs a little more, but we think it's all for the better good of the project and the road.
And that January coming has gone. That was January 2024. You heard him. Let's hear the real reason why there was a setback and why they had to do over some of the drawings for the project.
Prime Minister, we're going to move on to infrastructure and implementation. Now, in your national address, you articulated vast improvements in the implementation rate of government projects. Let us talk, however, about the Modern-Air project. What is the implementation rate there? Certainly, you can't be contributing to that rate that you referenced. It does appear that there's some bottlenecks there, which your predecessor, Minister of Infrastructure, also articulated, which you rebutted. But what can we see in respect of further implementation of that project? It does appear that there are some complications there.
Right. So I think, as I indicated, what would have happened is that after the contractor took possession of the site and commenced the demolishing of the buildings and so on, which were on the bottom side, you had a situation where the Nawasa pipe, which runs along that ridge, broke. So that would have caused some disturbance to the site itself. And the site is an unstable site. And I think that's what obviously brought us here in the first place. So that would have created delays because you would have had to obviously cap the pipe and then have the pipe redone. So while that was being done, obviously work would not have continued. So that's the first issue that happened. Now, the second issue that happened is that the Ministry of Infrastructure itself took the decision to, I would use this word, interfere with the slope. Now, the original design that Beston had done did not include doing any work on the slope. They recognized that that was one of the risks. Their approach with it was that the slope itself had not come down, and that they, as much as they recognized that there was a risk that it could come down, they felt that the work could continue on the bottom side, that the road could be rebuilt without the need to have to interfere with the slope. The Ministry of Infrastructure took a different position and, in fact, went onto the slope. Now, obviously, on going on, the slope is unstable, and significant work then would have been done on removing material from the slope, and that obviously would not have been part of the original design. And so once that happened, it meant obviously that you'd have further delays because you are now dealing with the slope, which was not part of the original design, which also would not have been part of the contractor's scope of work, right? Now, as that work went on, we would have had a change in ministerial portfolio. I would have been briefed on the matter. I myself went to the site, and having seen the site, it became quite clear to me that we needed to stabilize the slope, and therefore we could no longer proceed with the original design, which did not involve treating with the slope. And so what has happened since is that Beston, who was the consultants that did the original design, have been brought back in to look at the slope. They've provided designs that will deal both with the slope as well as the road itself, and as well as we have to work on the bottom slope, because the bottom slope obviously is where the action started in the first place. That is between the sea and the road itself. So now you have three components: between the sea and the road itself, and the upper slope, right? So we obviously need a comprehensive design that will treat it all three. And in the case of the upper slope, it is not necessarily here. We are not talking here necessarily concrete works, but we're talking slope stabilization works, right? So we have to stabilize the slope to make sure that it reduces the risk of it coming down. Two, if it does come down, we have to have a road design that could withstand the slope coming down. And so there's been a new design for the road itself. And then three, we obviously need to make sure that we take action to stabilize the bottom slope as well. So as it stands now, the designs have been completed for what we call the foundation of bottom part of the road. We expect that those designs will be approved and that the contractor will be in a position to commence the work on that. There are additional ancillary work pre and post the site itself that the contractor has been doing since. But our expectation is that the contractor would be in a position to get the design works for the foundation aspect so that you can start that. It would likely require more piling of the site. And so obviously the piles and so on would have to be procured for him to be able to do that. And then we'd expect that he can commence in earnest the actual road construction. And so the timeline for completion has moved from the end of the year to the first quarter of 2024. But obviously you have to bear in mind that this period is the rainy season. And so the rain could always cause further delays to it. But certainly I think in coming out of this process, I think we are satisfied that the new design, I think is more comprehensive and perhaps a superior design to the original one, simply because it factors in both the slope at the top, the road itself, and we're also looking at the slope at the bottom.
What about the cost differential to the taxpayer?
Well, there's no question that the costs are going to be increased, because the cost would have increased by one, you had a broken pipe, which then would have caused damage to the site and would have had to relocate it. So that's a cost that would have had to be there either between the NWASA and the government. Two, the original design did not include doing anything with the slope. And as I've just pointed out, significant excavation took place at the slope to the tune of millions of dollars. And therefore, that is an increased price that we'd have to factor in. And then we would have to pay the consultant additional sums for the redesign. So definitely there would be some costs. And with the fact that we are likely to need more piling of the site, then it would obviously mean that the cost of construction itself will go up. So I can't give you a wrong figure off the top of my head as to what those cost differentials would be, but we certainly have the comparison when we have the final figures in between what the project was originally budgeted to cost and what the new cost would be.
That was a lot, and he speaks very fastly and cuts some words short. Let me just give you what Prime Minister just said is that the original consultants, the contractors that was there already on island when they came into office, it's a company based in St. Lucia. These people decided they would send them back and that they can use local engineers. That they did. The local engineers, according to the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Infrastructure, they interfered with the slope that they wasn't supposed to touch. It was not part of the first drawings. They interfered with the slope and the slope started coming down. So they have to now find a way to keep up the slope, to keep it from coming down. So they have to do new drawings that can accommodate that. And that's how come they are new drawings. It's not that the new drawing wasn't good and they need it. No. Don't listen to Mr. Busybody that all over the place doing nothing really. Painting and planting flowers, yes, that we can see. All of the other things is showbiz. Is icing on top cardboard. You know, or frill on top of the panty, the frilly panty. Remember those? Right. So he then said that, so they have to, of course there was a broken pipe that damaged other parts of the project. So all of that they have to take into consideration. They have to bring back the people they sent to St. Lucia. They have to come back now. Bring them back because they realize that the Ministry of Infrastructure is not capable of doing the work. So they have to bring back these people and let them organize the new drawing, whatever. He said they show all the engineers in Grenada and they like it. They like the new drawings. All the engineers toward Grenada, right? And it's for the better good. Okay? So that's what happened. So the minister for, the leader of government business in the Senate, he get a whole long thing about the drawings wasn't good, with the Sagaboy, he had in the pocket, and the drawing wasn't good, and so we had to get new drawings, and so we need that's from the supplementary budget, so they need more money. The Prime Minister just said why they need the money there, more money, of course, for the project. And that is why we are where we are today with the project. Take your time and listen to the Prime Minister. Replay it. A gun amnesty. Now, just because you introduce something doesn't mean it's an accomplishment. In a press conference, I'm not sure what his rank says right now, but it's Officer Issa Pierre. What is this? I don't know what is this. Pardon me. I should have gotten that. I planned to, and the twin slipped me. Right? I would love to give him his rank, but it's Police Officer Issa Pierre. He, in a press conference, this is what he had to say when he was asked about the amnesty and where they are and how many guns collected, etc., etc.
I would not venture into indicating the number of weapons, ammunition that has been surrendered. But I will let you know, however, that persons has been taken advantage of the amnesty. We have had some weapon and ammunition surrendered. And the expectation of the law, a tally would be made, and at the end of the amnesty, we will make a pronouncement as to what has been surrendered and the total. So for you I doubt as much you want to wait until after July, at the end of the amnesty, when most stringent measures will be put in place for those persons being held with illegal weapon.
A couple of weeks later, a release was published by the RGPF stating information on the gun amnesty. A shocking revolution, to say the least. Here's an update. If you look on the on your screen, you can see a copy of that release. It's Central Police Station, 50 rounds of 32 ammunition brought in on the 18th of the 5th month, 2024. Special Intelligence Unit, 1 Taurus PT 22 caliber auto pistol with 4 rounds of ammunition. Handed over at St. Patrick's on the 15th of the 5th month, 2024. That's it so far. That's it. That's what you couldn't say because it's still executed repairs and construction on various roads. On various roads? Unbelievable. And you would understand what I mean when I say unbelievable. I remember the days of calling NNP a concrete government. It was the NDC thing to say. Today, I live to see the NDC listing roads repairs and construction as an accomplishment. The saying goes, if one have patience, they will see inside ants' belly. Today, I see inside ants' belly. In true form, NDC Minister Tevin Andrew, true NDC style, here's what he had to say.
Let's look at her representation of the Sister Isles and what she has done for the Carriacou and PG Martinique over the past 2.5, almost 3 years.
Well, what has Mrs. Battery Stewart done for Carriacou and PG Martinique for the last 3 years? I mean, some people may say some roads. But if anybody catch Tevin Andrews praising any politician or any government minister for building a road, send me to Mongi. Something wrong with me. Because it is like you praising the ATM machine for your own money. You put those officials in office and they ought to do those work. That's a responsibility to build roads, to maintain, to do this. It's like you going to London and hearing the people of London praising the mayor for stopping up a pothole or building some roads. You will never hear that. So I'm not praising any government minister for if they build a 200-footer road or do a box drain.
Okay, fair enough. Let's hear the minister is in office now. The shoes is on his feet now. Let's hear what he has to say.
A lot of things happen in Carriacou. Maybe I could refresh some memories or probably just update as a way of updating the general public. We have several road projects that has been either completed or under construction, whether it's the Bele Road project, which is a major road project connecting, that's our hospital, or mini emergency road to the hospital. We have the Brunswick roundabout widening, and of course drain development. We have the power station road, which is, I know the villagers in that area in Carriacou, which is extremely happy with the road construction that has taken place there. The Leicester Solution drain, the Haverville Road, the top and bottom Lawrencetown Road, the Mongelo Road, the Granby Road, over 2,000 feet of road is being constructed in Petit Martinique. The Prospical Road, and I could continue about all the other roads that we're building. Point in Carriacou. That road project will start soon. Point Mount Pleasant Road will be starting soon. I believe next week, Monday, the construction will start.
I only hope by now Mama 10 accepted him in her hospital. up at Mungate. That's all I have to say on this Seven Islands Road thing. Because it's roads, 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 and more roads. You know? Talks too much. They talk too much. The final one, the Project 500, soon to be piloted at Dunfermline. Well, we reached Dunfermline now. So much for Stony Guts. And what happened to the 2.5 million budgeted for the houses at Stony Guts? The Prime Minister, as Minister of Finance, in presenting the 2023 budget presentation, told us his government to deliver 500 high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style houses. Here he was.
Commitment to affordable housing. Our commitment in this term, Mr. Speaker, is to deliver 500 high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style houses. Two major initiatives in this budget cycle include: one, the Stony Gut Climate Resilient Housing Development Pilot Project, which aims to construct modern, high-quality, climate-resilient Grenadian-style homes in Stony Gut in the parish of St. John. Construction is expected to start in 2023, Mr. Speaker, and $2.5 million has been budgeted. Mr. Speaker, government will identify and secure lands in all parishes to roll out these houses. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we have allocated $2.4 million to retrofit and upgrade the affordable houses that have been graciously donated by the People's Republic of China. We commit to the allocation of the 647 units no later than June of 2023.
No later than June of 2023. We've come to that. By now, we should have had 1,000 high-quality Grenadian-style houses with swimming pool and all. In some cases, he did offer. Today, the Prime Minister, the same Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, in a town hall meeting in St. Patrick just over a week ago, are offering us, the people of Grenada, prefab houses.
This is important because what we are trying to do is to make sure that we can significantly reduce the cost of housing in Grenada. If you ask to build a 2-bedroom, modest concrete house, is at least $250,000, $300,000, $400,000. On the salaries that people are working for, you'll never be able to get a house at that price point. So what we are hoping to do with these contractors is to use technology, modern technology, that can allow us to do prefab houses. That is houses that are actually built or manufactured as much as possible in factories. And then what you're doing is you are installing the homes. So we would build the foundations, but you are literally installing the homes, installing the plumbing, installing the electricity and the other amenities. What that should allow is for a much more rapid, I'm going to use the word installation of the homes in a shorter space of time, where you can then do a lot of houses quickly and hopefully cheaply.
So no more Grenadian-style houses, because whether expensive or not, that's what it is. That's what we know. We know brick and mortar, and you understand, cement. That's what we know. That's what is Grenadian-style homes. That's the homes you offered. You condemned the Chinese homes, the apartments. You condemned it, although it's concrete. And now you want to bring houses in a box, in boxes, a kit in a box. It comes in a box, you take it out and you put up. And what happens when we have another Ivan? All the talk. I mean, it just can't get any worse than this. So now you're offering us prefab houses. Some of of us know what prefab houses are. I think they might have one or two left on the island. I don't remember if it was Gary that brought prefab house. They experimented, and it didn't go further than the experiment, right? He said they were cheaper and would build faster. In the words of Dr. Bull, absolutely. It will be cheaper, it will be faster, but will it be better? Would it last longer? As we're talking houses, and as you also mentioned in that clip, Prime Minister, the 647 homes, low-income homes, gifted to us by the people and government of the Republic of China. You claimed you allocated $2.4 million to retrofit these homes to be handed out. It was by June 2023. We're 1 year later. You complained in your campaign that the keys were handed over to the former administration. And a year later, the keys were not handed over to the persons waiting for home, desperately waiting for homes. Let's hear you in this clip.
Temporary housing while they can catch themselves. It is criminal to have a woman with children in those conditions, and you have the current housing scheme provided by the people of China still locked up, still closed up, an entire year after it was handed over to you by the Chinese government. So you prefer your people to remain homeless and to be on the street than to give them housing that was not provided by you, that was not built by you, but that is part of a grant from the Chinese government, yet you have security guarding the complex. The complex is empty, and our citizens can't even drive down to examine the quality of the housing. Under the National Democratic Congress government, that will end. And the people in our communities who are vulnerable and who need the houses will be given the houses. But I want to go further and say this.
It's criminal, he said. Prime Minister, it's 2 years later. You said they handed over the keys about 1 year ago and they still had the place locked up. Added to that 1 year, it's 2 years later, sir, and the houses are still locked up. What happened? You had another handover of the keys and cutting of ribbon by the Chinese. After we spoke about the housing and what's going on, and Simon says in a few days, there was another cutting of ribbon and handing over of keys. 2 years later, it's retrofitted according to you and ready to go. But they're still locked up. The few persons who were able to manage to get loans from the financial institutions, they are paying back their loans with no keys in their hands. No apartments for them, no condominiums. What am I saying? No condominiums. What happened? Where is the board of directors of the housing authority? Derogatory names to the reference to the Chinese apartments. It's better than nothing, though. Where are your 500 Grenadian-style homes? Let's hear our final clip for today.
But let me tell the woman in St. David, you have to take no formal lumber under the National Democratic Congress to get your house. So when the National Democratic Congress implements its housing plan, and I'm going to tell you about it, within 12 months of forming the government, the National Democratic Congress will start a nationwide housing program. That program will be done in conjunction with the private sector, so we will have a public-private partnership. And we will commence building 500 Grenadian-style homes in each parish. And we will do so each year thereafter, so that our citizens of Grenada can live in affordable housing, not apartments, with their front yard or their backyard that they can improve in their own image, shape, and likeness over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that when you retire, you can pass on a part of Grenada to your children and to your grandchildren, and you could say to them, that was the vision of the National Democratic Congress.
Give the people the houses. These apartments, give it to them. We beg of you, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. And give them the house reasonable. Forget this bank thing, this 555,070. Just give the people, the low-income earners, the houses, the apartments. There are so many displaced individuals as we speak, and families who lost their homes in fires during this past dry season, who still cannot afford to put 2 pieces of board up together to have a roof over their head. Give the people the houses. Give them the apartments, whatever you want to call them, condominium. Give it to them. The apartments you spoke of, they would love to have as shelter over their heads. At least it's somewhere to call home. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's been great conversing with you as usual, keeping them honest. Thank you for joining us at Simon Says, where facts come first. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.